What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you're new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum. And if you'd like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Now we're currently joined by Paul and Slick James Johnson. How are you both doing?
Good morning, good morning.
Doing good.
I had a disastrous start. I know we're only 5 minutes before the live show starts, but I've got a coffee machine that likes to hurt me. it's like this semi-industrial proper coffee machine, which I've had for about, 15, 16 years, a long time. And every time I go to fill it up, I take the lid off, which has got all the shot glasses on it. And I'm too lazy to clear the glasses off it first, so I just balance them, and every time they all fall off and smash and stuff. And now I've got a big chunk taken out of one of my fingers where I was trying to save one, and I've run my finger down the edge of the machine, which is like running your finger down a razor blade. It's got so many sharp edges on it.
So what you call coffee machine, I would call espresso machine. Sounds like. Yeah,
it's like one you'd get in Starbucks, with the group head and the handle, and you've got to properly tamp it. It's exactly the same as you get in Starbucks, basically.
I got you. I had one, something like that. I used to use it quite often, and then it just became too cumbersome. I went back to I went to a Keurig for a long time, then heard some issues about the Keurig and the pods, and it was actually cheaper to actually have a regular coffee maker. So I've got the good old fashioned drip coffee maker. That's what I use.
Put my manky finger on screen just to dedicate it to record.
Hey, that was a very interesting after show yesterday. I like that.
Yeah, I don't normally start recording again, but the conversation was that good, and I was listening to it while I was vacuuming. Normally, I'm doing whatever I'm doing after the show's finished. I've started it uploading for the website, and I've got it ready to go on the re-up on the second channel for this bit that we're recording now. And I forgot my point now. Oh yeah, I've finished all that, and then I'm normally just doing whatever bit of housework, or and I'll leave the Hangout running if I haven't disappeared already to go to a class. And as time progressed, I was like, man, this should really be being recorded. And obviously I've pulled all the sofa out, and I'm vacuuming behind that and stuff, and I was like literally cleaning the computer while the conversation was going on. I thought, I'm literally cleaning it. The least I can do is refire up OBS and just start recording, and then carry on cleaning. If it's garbage, I'll just chuck it away. And as the conversation went on and on and on, I was like, this is a really good conversation. And even John said at the end, I don't think he was aware that I'd started up the recording, and he was like, good Hangout. And I was like, yeah, it was. A lot of things got discussed. It was a bit fired up at times. But I enjoyed it. I enjoyed listening to it. I even listened to it back after it had been published. So I sat in the chat.
Yeah, I'm glad you did that, actually.
Hey, Sleeping Warrior.
Hey,
you're super loud. Let's turn you down a bit.
Sorry.
I know, it's not. It's fairly typical, actually. You're normally the loudest person, which isn't a bad thing. It just means I have to turn you down, everyone else up.
And then what I'll do is I'll move, and then you have to turn me back up.
That's everybody. That's not exclusive to you by any stretch of the imagination. Literally everybody does that. In fact, I've now taken the tact that I don't say you're a bit quiet, you're a bit loud, because normally when people hear that, they instinctively go, oh well, I better fiddle with things then, or move my position. It's like, no, just leave it to me.
I'm going to do an impression of our. Can you guys see my microphone on the camera?
No, but I can put you on.
Yeah, go on, do it.
Yeah,
I'm going to do an impression of Arwen. Am I on?
Yeah.
And then with Aaron, I sit on my microphone. I actually sit on my microphone. I am that close to it. I pop like mad, and I am that loud.
Hey, Anthony, I got to ask you a question. Do you have flattener? Do you have flattener Earth blocked?
He was mithering the fuck out of me the other day. I might have.
Yeah, I don't know if you were doing that intentionally, but if you could unblock him, that would be really nice of you.
I will do, but I'm not going to allow him to deliberately overspeak me when I disagree with him on something. If he can't be able to disagree properly,
you've definitely got your game too high.
But if I understand it, but if he's blocked, he can't disagree with you. So can you give him a chance?
sure. But just tell him that he needs to behave respectfully, because disagreeing with somebody is okay. It's a debate show. It's okay to disagree with people. It's not okay to stop that person responding by overspeaking them. And he was doing it intentionally. I spoke with Nathan after the show and I said, look, I don't mind him disagreeing with me. I disagree with how he does it. That's not acceptable.
Can you turn your mic down just a little? I know this is an important conversation, but really the pre-show's for sound leveling and things. So can you just turn your mic gain down just to like quarter turn, Anthony, on the back of the mic itself? The gain is definitely too high. Is
that any better?
That's miles better. Now I can actually have you at a reasonable volume and not sap you of any dynamic range you actually have. Okay, that's brilliant. Try something. Just say something.
Oh!
Something normal.
Alwyn sucks cock.
That's not normal, but that's good enough for me to level you up. Thank you. Paul, can you just say something quickly? Seconds and we'll start. Hey, Ibon.
Yeah.
Hello. Keep going.
Sorry, what was that?
I'm just leveling everybody up, if that's perfect. I just need Paul to say a couple more words and then we can start the show.
Okay. No, I was just waiting for everybody to calm down. How's that sound?
Yeah, perfect. Right, we're ready to rock and roll. Check.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum. And if you'd like to join this debate, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Now, we are joined by Slick James Johnson, I was about to say Anthony Riley, Sleeping Warrior, Paul, and Ibon Kim. How are you all doing?
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm looking through the longest list of blocked users ever possible in the history of Flat Earth.
Who are you looking for? Oh, you're looking for Flat and Earth?
Yeah.
Okay, I was sound checking while you were trying to have a disjointed conversation in the pre-show. So what was the actual gist of that? Anthony's blocked. Why have you blocked him?
I know it's a debate show and it's contentious, right? And I'm all right with people disagreeing with me. I'm not all right with people that deliberately speak over me the minute I start talking just to be an arse. That's not acceptable. Disagree with me, that's fine. Call me a snake. I'm all right with that. Just don't speak over me intentionally to be an arsehole, because there's just no need for it. It's just petulant and childish. Just disagree properly like an adult, and we can all have a disagreement. That's okay.
Okie dokie, snake.
Stick a fork in it.
These are gonna get parroted at nausea. You realise that, right, Slick? Your catchphrases, they're gonna get used. You know it.
That's okay. Use it. Keep that fork handy.
Fork off.
What fork? Is this an imaginary fork? Do you have a belief in this fork?
Well, no, the fork that is needed to stick oneself to check when they're done.
I think you've got an irrational belief in forks, personally.
Is a fork stabbing in your experience, Slick, or is it not in your experience? If it's not in your experience, you can't assert it as a thing, right?
Well,
words,
you know, it's every show. It starts this way. It's been this way for a week. Every show.
But
Anthony
yeah,
even got
you
in
have-
touch with me and said, "Don't start the next show talking about beliefs, for God's sake." And I was like, "Yeah, no worries." And then he brought it up on that show. I think it's a great topic, personally.
I tried to keep away from it. I presented flat Earth evidence to try and distract from it.
It's the contrasting view. Slick has taken a... Sorry to speak for you, Slick. Please forgive me. He's taken a completely contrasting view to the prove everything, show everything with evidence, gather science. Well, he's saying what we have is just beliefs. So I want to get rid of all that, and I completely relate. I'm sure I've said this many times before. You know, it reached the point where I was like, got to chuck it all out. It's all nonsense. Everything we know is rubbish. And I saw that as quite joyous. You know, it's quite exciting, right?
But wait a minute, it's not quite like that. Now, that's not quite how it is. So
No, I'm only speaking
wanna
for
get
me
that
in that regard.
misconception out there.
Yeah, I'm only speaking for me in that regard. I've said in the past, I don't necessarily take this standpoint now, but you know, at the time when you're like, wow, what a massive lie. What else is it? What else have we been lied to about? And then you start looking, and there's loads. You start getting to the point where, well, how many beliefs do I have? Are they all beliefs? And yeah, so I can relate.
By the way, I can confirm that I did not have Earth flat and Earth blocked. Somebody else must have.
Hey, Chocolate.
I just noticed I haven't seen them.
Earth to Chocolate. At work. He'll let us know when he's got a...
You guys hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yep.
Good to have you.
Good morning. My bad.
We'll get to some housekeeping in a bit once we've got these little bits about belief out of the way. Shout out to Leonardo Gonzalez for the super chat. Thank you very much indeed.
When you guys were talking about the ontological primitives yesterday, I so wanted to chime in. There is a third option.
Let's hear
I
it.
mean, we can come up with as many options as possible, because the two options that we currently have, they have to have a creator's entity, like this, the beginning, whatever it is that creates everything. It has to defy the laws of physics. It has to create something from nothing, whether it's the God that created everything or whether it's the Big Bang. All of that breaks the laws of physics. Once the creation starts, to start that creation, it has to break it. Another option could be Hi, Arwen.
Hi, Arwen.
Hey. Hello,
Ibon's just in the middle of
Right.
something. Hey, good to have you, Arwen. Carry on, Ibon.
Okay, so another option is just like we, as third dimensional beings, whenever light casts onto us or any object within this third dimensional universe as we know it, it's a two-dimensional shadow. So another possibility is that maybe not just the animals on it, maybe Earth itself, whether it's a plane or a planet, whatever you want to call it, it's just a third dimensional shadow of a fourth dimensional object. So it necessarily doesn't have to be created. It's just there as a shadow of something else. That could be an option.
What the?
Well, see, I was trying to be clear about this yesterday. I think really it's not a nature. I mean, if you infer a beginning, you have to infer a creator first of all, and then the second thing, the only two options you have is either things came to being at a point in time which would infer a creator, or they've always existed. Even your concept would fall into the concept of things have always existed, natural law, natural something has always existed. That's the only two options you have. I think that's to me the ultimate ontological primitives. Either things started, came into being, which would infer a creator, or they've always existed. That's the two options.
I'm saying that the creator of what we experience, as far as the earth, the heavens, and whatnot, it doesn't have to be created. It can just be a residue of something that's higher. So it doesn't necessarily need creation. As far as what created the residue maker, you don't know. But that wouldn't defy the laws of physics.
Well, I'm saying the thing that you're...
All right, my question, I'm sorry, Paul, real quick. My question is, though, like, why does it have to be either a creator or everything was always here? Because if let's say there was a creator, right? The creator, let's say the creator, right? Well, if there was the creator, then he would have to, or he, she, whatever it is, would have to already always be here, right? Couldn't just come out of nowhere.
Well,
right?
The two ontological primitives are nature versus intelligent design, but maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves because I'm going to have to quote John in saying this, but the two ontological primitives are invoked after this question is answered correctly. Has the universe always existed? And the answers are resounding no. Why? Well, it's a violation of the laws of thermodynamics. Now you end up with the two ontological primitives being invoked, nature versus intelligent design. Which one of these caused the universe to come into existence? Well, obviously number two, because you can't have nature violating nature. So that immediately rules out everything coming out of nature. So for me, that's why I side with number two for obvious reasons. If it's a violation of a law of nature, nature can't do it.
The Earth is flat. The Earth is flat.
And
the Earth is flat.
That's
right.
why
We're trying to make Earth globe again.
Arwen's got flat Earth Tourette's. Good to have you, though.
Earth is flat.
Go ahead, Arwen. Tell him.
Get it all out, Arwen. Shout it from the
No,
rooftops.
I'm getting look, so much creation, all that debate. Like, seriously, when's the last time we talked about flat Earth? I talked about flat Earth with Chris Berry on my early bird today. It was really good. I remembered. Oh yeah, you can actually talk about flat Earth.
This is talking about flat Earth.
So flat Earth. Earth is flat.
This is
So
talking
when we
about flat
talk
Earth.
about flat Earth and people who are globe earthers ask, hey, is there a book that explains flat Earth? We don't talk about flat Earth then. We talk about globe Earth. So most of the time, we're basically talking about globe Earth and how it's wrong.
Talk all day about flat Earth.
I mean, talking about flat Earth.
And the other thing too.
Go on, Paul.
You mean we're talking about how there is no globe Earth?
Right.
That's what we're talking about.
But how the Earth came to be is answered in the globe Earth paradigm. It's answered in their narrative. So you have the Big Bang. They're answering that question. Nature created it all. It all came from nothing.
You know the guy that was on the show yesterday?
It's flat.
The very quiet spoken guy that.
Sorry, Anthony. I think Arwen's got something to add. Go ahead, Arwen.
Yeah. It's flat.
Thank you so much. Go ahead, Anthony.
Guy that was on yesterday.
Can I say something?
Having to get him to speak up. At the end of the show, when everybody had left, there was only me and him left. And basically, what we were talking about was the concept of what came first, the chicken or the egg. Now, the ontological principle states that either everything came from nothing or it was created. And he wanted to have the concept that because the chicken and the egg is a continuous loop, because you have a chicken that gives you an egg, then you have a chicken that gives you an egg, because that's a continuous loop. He wanted to accept the concept that just carried on going up continuously forever and ever and ever. Amen. And I'm like, dude, where did the first chicken or the first egg come from? And he's like, it always existed. I'm like, you can't have something from nothing. I said, well, back to that. It reduces back to that at all times, always. I said, somewhere that chicken or that egg came into existence at some point, right? In the same way that the human gave birth to a child. Human child. Yeah, but you
no, it could have been always there. Just kidding.
But it was except that when it was somebody says that maybe everything was just the Earth flattener, isn't it? And maybe everything always existed. No, you can't have that. Either it came from somewhere or it exploded from nothing. It's literally them two.
Right, but when you make hold on, can I get a statement in here? Hold on, Anthony. You can't just declare that.
Just before you do, Paul's been waiting for ages to get his actual statement that this started without.
I mean, the reason I think this topic is relevant, that it's a flat Earth relevant, or it's relevant to flat Earth, is because it's asking the question, why is there something rather than nothing? We're trying to answer that question, and I think the reason. I think that's why the ontological primitives aren't necessarily, something coming from nothing or a creator. It's actually either nature has always existed or it's created. That to me is the two ontological primitives in my mind. Because when you say everything's always existed, there's something inside of us knows that there has to be something prior. Hold on, hang on. There's something inside of us that longs to be something prior. Like. Something we know in our intuitive minds know something cannot come from nothing. We know that there's nothing. I mean, there's no thing, then there's something that can't happen. We know that intuitively. So I think you have two options. Either nature is eternal or God is eternal. Nature to me has no causative power, has no cause or has no ability to have causal agency. Only an intelligent, free choice, free ability to choose person or thing or being can cause anything to occur. And that's why God to me is the primary starting point, and He's eternal, not the world or the existence we are in.
Now, in opposition to that, the nature that we observe around us is experienced by every one of us, whereas this God, creator God that everyone believes in, hasn't been presented to all of us. Yeah, I would assume that this creator God has been presented to none of us. So based on what we observe and what we experience, which one seems to make more sense?
Maybe the creator presented themselves to some people and that just didn't recognize it or didn't believe it.
I have a question. What if the creator and nature are one and the same?
That doesn't solve the problem, because that's what I just said a minute ago. Nature has no cause. I mean, like natural law has no causal power. There has to be some kind of agent to work within the natural law to function. So, and nature and laws do not have causal power. Only an intelligent person. And if the universe had a beginning, if the world had a beginning, then what you're saying would be that that it had to exist prior to its existence.
What I'm saying is no, that's not even what I'm talking about. What if the creator and nature is one and the same?
Yeah,
hey,
but
10th
no.
Man and UK Truth, how you both doing?
Nature is within the physical world. So that nature could not have just created everything that doesn't make any sense.
No, it does make some sense.
No, it doesn't. No.
It makes a lot of sense.
The creator can't be.
It's a very Gnostic way of looking at things, but basically that Earth was created by the mother, what they would call Sophia, and she wants to find who created her, and therefore she went looking and ended up creating the demiurge and all this other stuff. It's very similar to the Gnostic beliefs, dare I say, call it beliefs, but that is the creation story.
It is the Gaia worship. I know it.
And the point that I'm trying to make is that people keep making these declarations that this can only be this and this can only be that. You're just declaring. You don't have any basis for these statements.
Oh, really?
But you have no basis for asking the question that could the universe be, the God and the creation be the same? You're just asking a question. You're making no assertion. So really, you're not bringing anything to the table.
Yes, I am. I'm asking a valid question. I am bringing something to the table. I'm not making a declaration. I'm asking a question that
Well, you can ask the question, but I'm saying that I don't think that's a valid question.
Right, but who cares what you think?
Good morning.
I do.
Who cares what you think, Slick?
I do.
Who cares what you think, Slick?
Hey, 10th
Yeah,
Man.
I care what Paul. I care what Paul says. I'm not trying to be. What you say,
I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being serious. When you say I don't think that, you saying that like it really has some weight, like it means something. Like you sit somewhere on some throne that you get to declare what means something and what doesn't. That's the only thing I'm saying.
No, that's what you're doing.
Hey, 10th Man.
And also,
I actually
not for nothing. Not for nothing. I actually. It's gonna sound weird, but there was a little while where I kind of agreed with Slick when he said the creator and nature being the same thing, because I used to think that a little bit, not taking out the causality that Paul was talking about. I thought of that because when I obviously I'm not a religious person, but I tried in thinking of these subjects. I came to that. Like maybe it is something like that, like nature and, the creator are one and the same. And maybe there is an intelligence that we can't see in nature that can be attributed to the creator. Now, obviously, I don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm not a religious guy, but I just throw my 2 cents in. That makes sense.
It's kind of like this. So what you're saying is the computer simulation, the computer and the computer simulation, or like how to explain this, the computer simulation, the computer created itself, or the computer is God.
A programmer can never program himself from scratch.
Right. I
You
mean,
can
this is what
only
I kind of
reprogram
used to
themselves,
think.
but you can't program yourself from scratch. That's literally impossible.
Let me just
Right.
like suppose we accept that nature is did you say if
What I'm,
nature
s- yeah, let me say, yeah, what I'm saying, let's just for hypothesis, hypothetical.
Yeah.
We're saying that nature and creator are one and the same. They're both the same thing.
Okay, so if nature and creator were the same thing, wouldn't that make the sun, in other words, the giver of life? Because without sun, everybody dies, right? Plants die, food dies, everybody dies. Wouldn't that make the sun the giver of all life, therefore God? Praise Helios.
You could say that. That would be a fair statement. That's why the Son is given such praise, and that's why the Son was turned into Jesus Christ, for that very same reason. See, the Son, I'm not done yet. The Son was basically hijacked to create this religion to control the world. That's why it's 2019, because that's the
Support your claim, please.
That's can I
Starting
finish,
to sound
please?
more and more
I know, but no.
Luciferian
Okay, I'll tell you
by
what.
the day, Slick.
Let me go ahead and let you take over. My fault. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, hello, good morning.
Hey, 10th man, good to have you.
You know what?
Hold on,
Okay.
just level him up at
We'll
the
talk
least.
about it later.
Hold on.
When it's my time to speak, Nathan, just give me the cue.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, thank you. Now, Slick says, and he does say it, that there is no beliefs. He doesn't have any beliefs. I wasn't aware until I listened to yesterday's show fully because I'm sick and I got on late. But I went back to listen just to readdress everything. And I caught the beginning of that show. And that was the 8:12 Uncut NAFTA show. And at the 1 minute 12-second mark, he says, my whole position is to tear down the belief system in its entirety on all sides, wherever their beliefs are. I'm here to tear them down. Okay, I believe him that that's why he's here. That's why we're always having conflict with him. But my question is very simple. If the only thing he accepts is experience, and I don't think Slick is 2,000 years old. I mean, he's born in 1900 something. How does he know anything about Jesus if the only thing he accepts is his experience? That means
he doesn't. He's just talking.
Excuse me. Let me finish. That means he must have read something or seen something and believed someone else's experience to come up with this Jesus never existed. So he does have beliefs. He's a Trojan horse.
Well, what have you considered this? Have you ever considered that I may be spirit?
I think we all are spirit.
Okay, so that's just
red herring. Red herring. Red herring.
Hold on. Take it easy. Take it easy.
Let me finish. Slick, this is a good question. I'm glad you brought it up. We all are body, soul, and spirit, but we're fallen spirits, and that's why Jesus came.
Right, but that's not my point. What I'm saying is that which is flesh, and that which is spirit is spirit. Now, that's the spirit that I'm... Hold on. Are you going to let me finish or cut me off?
Sorry, go on.
So what I'm trying to propose to you is that those are two separate things. Now, when you're speaking about me, you have to be clear on which one you're speaking about. Are you talking about me in the flesh or me in the spirit? Those are two different entities.
I see. Okay, so let me take you to the next level of hypocrisy then. You said to understand you, we have to think like an animal. Okay. Nathan, when's the last time a Wolverine or a dog called in on the debate show and debate flat Earth?
They're in all the time.
Now, can I respond to that? Now, didn't I also say right after that, I said, just because I can think, I don't let that get in the way. See, so what you see on this talk show is me just having the ability to think, but I don't let that get in the way of reality.
Right. So you're an intellectual pacifist.
Hang on. I've got a thread here. Just let me have Slick for a little while, and then I'm sick. You guys could jump on him later. At the 23-minute, 35-second mark, of the Ibn Kim interview, you said the biggest problem that man has is that they could speak. And you contrasted that to animals that don't speak. And you said, obviously, tying into that, what you said yesterday, and let me just read it because it's very telling here. I'm going to read my notes here. My whole position is to tear down the belief system in its entirety in all sides, wherever their beliefs are. I am here to tear them down. At the 139, reality doesn't have an R side in response to Sleeping Warrior when he said, listen, you're arguing with fellow flat earthers. And you said there is no R side. I couldn't care less about the flat earth community. They mean nothing to me. That's what you said at the 139 mark. At the 208 mark, you said beliefs divide people.
Before you go on, there was a long pause after that sentence was said as well. You've missed that bit off.
No, I know there's a pause. I'm citing the minutes I'm giving. Someone else could go and see the pause. I'm not citing.
I'm just saying that pause was it was disdain on my part. I didn't respond.
Oh, I know. I got that. Okay, duly noted. 208 part. Beliefs divide, period. The whole belief system is set up on a heads, they win, tails, you lose. So that's what it is. It doesn't matter what side you're on, you lose either way. That's the deal with beliefs. And then reality doesn't require me at all. I don't count. This is what you said about yourself, Slit. And then at the 429, I believe it was Sleeping Warrior, and you were responding to the sophism or Sabalistic statement, and you said, I'm not holding that position. Slick says to Nathan, he does not have influence on reality. At the 446, reality has nothing to do with me. It doesn't need me to exist. It doesn't require me at all. I don't count. So you yourself say you don't count. I take the same position of any animal. The only difference between me and an animal is that I have the ability to think, but I just don't let that get in the way. From I don't to. Then like any animal, he cites philosophy. Christian terms are being hijacked when it's responding to Paul's statements because Nathan brought him back to what he was saying about Paul. So here's a guy who says he's like any animal, and then he starts saying that philosophers have talked about the Christians hijacking terms. But then when yesterday I brought up the Socratic method and Aristotle's rules to logic, he said, oh, so you're quoting those philosophers? But here he's quoting philosophers, but he's an animal, but he doesn't want to think. So you're just a hypocrite. You don't make any sense. And if you say experience is the only thing valid, how do you go back 2,000 years and say Jesus didn't exist when you weren't there to experience it? You have to stay true to your statements. Say, I don't know.
Right. Now, here's the point that you missed once again. Okay. I said there's two beings here. You have the spirit and you have the flesh. Now, you have to understand when I am talking in the spirit. So that's when I'm talking about this in the spirit, when I'm talking about 2,000 years ago, because it's always now. 2,000 years ago. Oh, listen, never mind. If you're going to just interrupt me. Now, 2,000 years ago and now, there is no difference in the spirit. Do you understand that?
I think I do. You believe you are.
Hold on. Just do you
understand? You believe you are divine.
Just say yes or no. Do you understand or not? I'm not asking you for. I'm not looking for your word salad. I'm just asking you.
You are the most cowardice person I've ever met. Everything.
Listen, I'm trying to make a point, and I'm asking you a simple. Okay, so just answer the question so that I can continue. I'm not looking for you to step in and add your word salad.
Yes,
you're the one making word salad, and you're talking about weird, timeless, spirit, ethereal approaches. This is ridiculous.
Let me know when I can continue.
Hold on.
I will let you know.
You just let Slick actually respond. We had about 10th man.
That's what
10th man. He gave you like quoting him over and over again. He didn't interrupt you once. Come on.
Right. So I was trying to. I'm sorry. Yes, I was trying to make a point that in the spirit, It's always now. All time is now, no matter when it was. So 2,000 years ago and today in the spirit is the exact same time. That's why I know about 2,000 years ago.
Thank you. But every time you didn't start that way, you said, you came back to me with a question. When I ask you a question, or anybody on this panel ever asks you a question, maybe 10%, maybe, I'm being generous, you come back with an answer, but the other 90+%, you ask a question back, which lets you deflect, and then you say, I rest my case. So yes, you are equating yourself to the spirit. You're giving your own terminology to the spirit. You have to be omniscient and God to do what you just said. So just admit it. You believe you're God.
You admitted it.
Oh, so you agree with it.
I just said you admitted it.
So do you believe you have divine essence and you're God and you're omniscient and you're spiritual?
I don't have beliefs. I don't have beliefs.
Do you state that in your omniscient divine state, your spirit, you have no time, you're bound by no time, and you were there when Jesus was there? Is that what you're saying?
Listen, what I'm saying is you have already said it, but you have not understood.
Yes or no?
I just said you said it, but you have
Grow
not
some
understood.
and answer the question. Yes or no?
That is my answer. You have said it, but you have misunderstood. That is my answer.
Well, no, then correct me.
I just said it. You misunderstood.
Correct it.
You said it, but you
Correct
misunderstood.
him.
I'm correcting him.
No, saying that he's incorrect is not correcting. Correct.
Maybe you can be quiet
and correct.
Okay. Did you hear the first part of my statement when I said?
And it didn't contain anything.
Would you be quiet, please?
You're red herring the shit out of the argument.
Would you be quiet, please?
To Mind Warped for the super chat. Thank you very much indeed.
Remember when I said you have said it? Did you hear that part? Did you hear that part of my statement when I said you have said it?
Said what?
Listen, when I answered you, I said you have said it, but you have not understood.
Get to a point, I'm gonna freaking kick you, Slick.
All right, you know what? Go ahead. I'm gonna let this conversation go. I'm done with it.
Yeah, it's absurd.
I'm so sick of you, man. I'm so sick of you and your fucking bullshit.
No swearing.
Hey,
Stop threatening.
No swearing, please.
Arwin, this is what happens when you hold an absurd position. And I like to see it fall apart live.
Now,
but he's still gonna do it anyway.
Well, it's up to
meta bullshit, not actually getting to the point until he actually lost track of what was talked about. He does it freaking every time, every fucking day.
Stop swearing, please.
Well,
please stop swearing.
It's Nathan's show. He can run it any way he wants. I have no problem showing up every day to show his absurdity.
If Nathan wants to do that, that's fine. But I'm gonna be sick of it.
Well, then, you don't have to come, just like people don't have to come.
No, but I will come.
No, I agree, and I will come, and I will show the absurdity of this nonsense.
So will I.
Good job.
All
Good
right.
job.
Moving on, I would like to report that the other day, Sheila, actually, it's actually been quite a while, but Sheila Zelinsky, she's got 101,000 subscribers. She started to look into flat Earth a little bit by having an interview with Dean Odle. I never heard of Dean Odle before, but he did an interview with her that was about an hour long, and he brings up a lot of good points because he wants to try to get people into the biblical side of the interpretation of the Bible.
Wasn't
and
Dean
scripture.
Odle the guy
and,
who kicked off at a conference? Didn't he? I'm sure there was some scandal that he caused at one of the conferences in the States. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, I think so. I think that might be correct. I haven't looked into him too much.
Before you carry on, Ibon, is there anybody who's not particularly chatty on the panel that wants to drop? Because there is somebody who wants to join if you are willing to drop.
I'll go ahead and drop.
No, you're the one person talking.
I'll just kick Slick, and then someone else.
Don't kick anybody, please. Just anybody who's not particularly talking.
The only person we're really willing to lose here.
Is it a baller, John?
I'll drop.
A guy called Chris.
He's a baller.
Didn't actually establish that. You're a baller, Chris. Please let us know in the chat. Either way, if there's any panel member that's not chatting, obviously, if they can make a gap, hopefully Chris is a baller.
Isn't UK Truth a baller?
Nathan, I will.
Cool, we've got a gap coming. There you go, Chris. Feel free to join.
And real quick, Ebon, I love you, bro. But what's the hat? What's going on with the hat, man?
So this is called Mega. Make it globe again.
Right, I see that.
It's a segment that I want to do where basically I want to try to get Globers on to talk with me to convert me back into making Earth a globe again.
Hey, Chris,
okay.
How you doing?
Copy
Can you hear
that.
us?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. Good to have you.
Yay, I'm in.
So what's your deal, Chris? Why did you want to join? Why were you so keen?
Yeah, there's a couple of things I wanted to ask you guys. I was having a discussion with some ballers this morning about gravity, and they brought up this video that Wolfie apparently did. And basically what he did was he was showing that an object that has like a fixed mass, like the weight changes when you move from, like, I think it was a southern hemisphere to the equator or something. And what the point that he was trying to make was that what's causing that change? Like the mass of the object that's being weighed stays the same. However, when it's moved to a different location, it weighs different. So what he was trying to say was that gravity is what's causing that change to happen, rather than the density or the mass of the object. I may not have represented what he was trying to explain accurately, but
no worries, that's perfect.
If you get my point.
Yes,
yeah.
It's an affirming the consequent. So in his example, he's already assumed that he's traveling between northern or southern hemispheres, and then he gives his example changing latitude and assuming his outcome, that it's a sphere with gravity. So he will then declare this non-scientific observation and claim the cause based on his presupposition. So it's simply a logical fallacy, affirming the consequent. If the Earth is a sphere with gravity, then we will observe the effect of weight change when I change my latitude. I change my latitude and observe weight change, therefore the Earth is a sphere with gravity. It's an affirming the consequent form of logical fallacy.
Right, so my question to you guys is, what's causing the weight change?
What weight
I
change?
have a theory.
Because he claims that it is taking place. I mean, I haven't verified it for myself, but
he
what would
claims
be
it.
causing that to happen?
Sure. We have a way of adjudicating cause and effect relationships. It's called the scientific method. If adhered to, you establish the cause of an effect. So is he proposing that this weight change is a naturally occurring phenomena that he can validate with science? No. He simply declares it based on a digital scale that he puts through the air under massively different pressures, lands, and then tears it and weighs it again. Correct?
That's correct.
What a crock of shit.
Wait, I mean, am I confused? But haven't they tried to use the same quote-unquote evidence for the rotation?
I'm not sure about that. I don't know about that.
All right, I could be confused.
I'm still kind of confused, and forgive me here, because like I'm not 100% sure about all of the specifics involved in this. But so what you're saying is that there is no change happening. Like when you weigh something at a different location, it's still going to weigh the same.
No, I'm saying if he is to assert that that is a phenomena naturally occurring in our glorious world, then there is a established method for adjudicating cause and effect relationships. If he's saying that's an effect and he wants to attribute a cause to it, then he's absolutely in the realms of science. So is this a scientific proof of gravity? Well, of course not. It's a crock of shit.
Right. Okay, so in this case, if we were to say that we're observing an effect and we're not sure what the cause of that effect is, how would we determine what the cause of that is?
With the scientific method.
The scientific method.
That's correct.
I've heard you talk about the scientific method before, and if without me butchering it, just because I don't want to do that, do you mind letting me know what that is?
Sure. So the first step in the scientific method would be to observe a natural phenomena. In this case, a claimed natural phenomena, which is in no way natural. Nevertheless, if we give them that anyway and say that the weight change they are observing is a natural phenomena, then you create a hypothesis with an alternative and a null that says, if this, your independent variable, the thing you will vary and manipulate to cause the effect, then we will experience the effect. So then you vary and manipulate your presumed cause of the effect, and if it causes the effect, you have validated your alternative hypothesis. Simple.
Okay, so at this stage, we don't know what the cause is. We're just observing an effect. And
Correct.
the claimed effect that's being observed is that when you move, let's say you have a gram of, not a gram, but like 10 grams of gold, like a gold bar that weighs 10 grams, and you move it to a different location, and it weighs 10.5 grams. So we're just observing an effect. And how are we going to determine what the cause is? Because I'd imagine that we varied it from moving from one location to another.
So you vary that which you presume is the cause of the effect. So you create a supposition, also known as a scientific prediction, hypothesis. That hypothesis contains that which you presume causes the effect. And you have two sides to that prediction. If this, then that. In other words, a confirmation that what you have presumed causes the effect does cause the effect. If this, then that. If this, not that. Oh, we've got feedback from somebody. Anthony.
Yeah, I think that's Anthony right now.
So if this, not that, would be your null hypothesis. So you vary and manipulate that which you presume causes the effect, and it does not cause the effect. So it has two sides, and after systematic experimentation, you will either validate or invalidate your hypothesis, which is to say you will either confirm that it does not cause the effect you presume, or it causes the effect you've presumed. This will obviously be done under controlled circumstances. But you have a single independent variable, something which you presume is the cause, you vary it, and if it causes it, you have an established cause. Now, they are not going to be able to achieve that when they simply assert that their presupposition that they're travelling across a sphere Earth, which has gravity, is that which causes the weight change. That's a whole lot of presuppositions, as opposed to a supposition which they will then validate through systematic experimentation. Hence my description of it being a crock of shit.
Right. So if we were going to perform the same test, I'm not going to call it...
Yo, Anthony.
Yeah, Anthony. What's going on there? Right. So if we were to perform this same test, I'm not going to call it an experiment because it's not an experiment at all. And we're to perform it as a flat earther, meaning that we're not going to presuppose anything. And we were to say that the hypothesis for this is that we observe that things, the weight of certain things change depending on the location we're in. And we're trying to figure out, you know, what's causing that, right? Would it be enough to say at location A, such an object weighs, say, 10 grams, and at location B, it weighs like 10.5 grams? Are those enough variables, or do we need to have more than those in order to make it valid?
So if you are to make it a valid scientific prediction, then you have a presumed cause and an effect. Now, if you're saying that the location causes weight change, then that is your supposition. The location would be the cause.
Well, I mean, we don't know what the cause is yet. We're just observing the effect that when we're moving from one location to another location, the bar of gold that we're weighing weighs a different weight than it does at a separate location. That's all we're looking at right now. We haven't figured out what's causing that yet.
And they've established that how? With a $12 digital scale.
Yeah, we've got a $12 digital scale.
Wow, this is an amazing measurement. It's a measurement of weight changing with location after transporting what is presumably not particularly complex but nonetheless sensitive equipment across the airwaves in different pressures. There are so many variables to take into consideration that you couldn't possibly assert at the end that something non-related to anything you have changed is actually the cause. That's just made up. So I say, if I move my car from one location to another, it changes colour, and the reason is because of unicorns. Well,
I mean, what's wrong with
I've moved my car and observed colour change. That's what I've done. Yeah? And I assert that unicorns has caused it, until you establish that I've actually moved it into somewhere darker.
Right, but I mean, at this point, we haven't established what's causing it. We're just looking at what's happening.
Sure, but we're really only interested in the natural world, as opposed to what happens with a set of man-made digital scales when you transport them through the air, which is precisely what's being done in this nonsense.
Now, you keep mentioning that the scales are being transported through the air. How would that affect anything?
Who cares? It's a variable, isn't it? Something has been varied. The pressure exerted on the scale as it's transported is being massively altered as it transports into a different pressurized area at a different atmospheric pressure, at a different temperature, at a different time of day. Many things change during that period. However, none of the things that have actually varied are attributed to the cause now, are they? It's caused by what now? Gravity? What the hell's that? Any scientific validity given to this cause that they've made up? No, they've just made it up and then attributed it to this, which they claim is a phenomena. No, it's not. Not a natural phenomena. It's a phenomena of what happens to a man-made scale when you transport it.
Right, but in certain examples that I've seen, the scale itself wasn't transported. It was the object that was going to be weighed that was transported, and they used the scales that were at the location that they were traveling to.
Oh, right. So a variable scale. A completely different scale being used.
A different scale, yeah.
Oh, right. Another variable. Was that asserted as the cause, that variable, of the scale itself, the man-made device? This is nonsense. The entire thing is nonsense.
Right. I mean, so from what you're saying, there's several things that, could affect what the outcome of this test is. So, I mean, how do we know what we're going to isolate? Because there's so many things that, you brought up, like air pressure and atmospheric conditions that could affect, the change that's happening.
I've already answered this. With the
rigorous scientific experimentation.
Right. So you have a method already laid out for establishing cause and effect relationships. That's called the scientific method. You have control variables, that which you will hold constant, the effect, and that which you presume has caused the effect. The thing you will vary and manipulate to show, as you vary and manipulate it, that it does indeed cause the effect. At any stage during this nonsense, is the variable asserted to be the cause actually varied at any point?
No, it's not.
So they haven't varied and manipulated that which they presume has caused the effect. They've varied multiple other things and then simply asserted it at the end.
Right. But you can't vary gravity. That's not possible.
No, but they can vary the pressure on the man-made device that they're transporting and claiming that the number on that man-made device is a phenomena. This is nonsense.
Right. Interesting.
Or nonsense, depending on which way you want to look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to look at it at this point. I obviously need to do some further investigation on the scientific method because it's not as it may be straightforward, but I don't know why it's just not straightforward to me. The thing that I'm having a hard time with is the variables, and I understand that, you know, like there's a lot of different things that are going on that need to be taken into account. And so what you're saying is that it's the cause that needs to be varied. That's it. Nothing else needs to be varied.
Sure. I mean, there's a simplistic example that Betty and John give, and I'm just going to use theirs because I can't think of a better one. So you're walking along and you stumble across a boiling hot spring, a phenomena in nature, and you go, I wonder what causes that water to boil. So then you start to vary and manipulate things which you presume cause that effect, and you formulate hypothesis. If acid content, then boiling water. So you vary and manipulate the acid content of the water to find that it causes no boiling. Then you say, maybe heat causes this effect. So you vary and manipulate the heat, and what do you know? The heat causes the effect. You have then established the cause of the effect by varying and manipulating various things until you establish which one actually caused the effect. Prior to that, you only had supposition. What you presumed caused the effect, but didn't actually establish the cause until you varied and manipulated that cause to see that it didn't or did cause the effect.
Right. Okay, so the ballers claim that the effect, or rather the cause, is gravity, and we can't assert that gravity is actually causing that because we don't know that. We can't vary it. So from your point of view, how would you perform this test?
I wouldn't.
If you don't know what the cause is, and we've established that, you know, certain things appear to change mass, like we're observing that effect, but we don't know what's causing it. How would we perform an experiment to determine how that's happening?
We wouldn't. It's not a natural phenomena.
It's not natural.
No. You're asking me why my computer runs faster when I transport it from here to a different location, and even though the broadband speeds are the same at the phone line, why does my computer run faster? Let's figure out why my man-made device changes its desired effect when I transport it. Oh, my bad, I didn't mean computer and internet connection. I meant electronic weighing device that was man-made. Sorry, my confusion there. So should we figure out why my computer changes its speed? I mean my calculator. I mean sorry, what was the man-made device we were using again? Scales?
A scale, yeah.
Oh, my bad. Is this a natural scale that we found in nature? No.
No.
No. Definitely not.
Right, but I mean, we do need man-made technology to determine certain things. I understand where you're coming from, but how else would we know how much something weighs if we don't have a scale to weigh it? How else would we figure that out?
What are we trying to figure out? There's an assertion that there's a phenomena that this thing changes, and either they change the physical location and a lot of parameters around the device, the man-made device, and it's not the physical item isn't going to be asserted to have changed in any way. The number on the scale is what's changing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, this is not a natural phenomena. If you're to assert that that physical thing has changed physically or molecularly during its travels, I would immediately call bullshit.
Right, and in the second example that I provided to you, I said that rather than traveling with a scale, we're going to use the same scale at these two different locations. Same brand, same make of scale.
So not the same scale. So not the same scale then?
They're not, but they function the same.
Oh, do they?
Because they're the same type of scale.
Oh, great. So they'll link us to the calibration data that's been measured to within 1/10 of a degree of accuracy, and all the control parameters around the vacuum chamber or pressurized chamber that kept the exact same pressure of the atmosphere on that scale. All of those things, and the humidity, and all of those things were taken into consideration and controlled, were they, when making this measurement?
Why would the same piece of technology work the same in different locations?
I don't know. Men are faulted in terms of how they put pieces of equipment together. That's why it sits outside of science and inside technology. So understanding how this technology may vary between device to device or having been transported is an answer that can be put to the people who created it in their technological realm. Me, I'm only interested in the physical and natural world as opposed to what digital man-made scales do or the variance between them.
Right. But I mean, you can determine whether this piece of technology functions in the exact same way by, for example, putting different sets of weights on there, seeing if the weights match, and repeating the same test with the scale that's at the other location. I mean, that can just be used as a marker to determine whether the technology works as said. But I mean, further than that, how else are we going to determine how much something weighs if we can't weigh it physically?
We do weigh things physically. That's not what's being done here. This is being used to assert gravity is real, which I've already taken to pieces. So beyond that assertion, what's this useful for? Are you proposing that you're going to take gold across the country to make a large profit when it weighs more?
No, that's not what I'm asserting. I was just using that as an example.
I'm
just trying to figure out, whether this has any validity to it.
What's it useful for? What's the use of this? What does it prove? What's it useful for?
It proves whether, the effect that's claimed, actually takes place as stated.
No, it doesn't prove that. I just explained this. They haven't established the cause of any effect. The effect is not a natural phenomena. It's a technological one. So this proves nothing besides capabilities of man-made technology.
Right. Okay. So the issue here is that we don't know what the cause is, so we can't vary or manipulate it. All we can see is the effect. So we obviously need to know what the cause is before we can determine, whether it really is what's causing the weights to change at different locations.
But you're
First,
asserting
they
that
can't even figure out if their gravity is a force or if it's the bending of space-time. They're still not even in congruence with that.
No, the current rhetoric is bending of space-time.
Beyond that.
The current rhetoric is bending of space-time. That's the current rhetoric. Doesn't matter what anyone else says. It's currently bending of space-time.
No, I get that.
Sure, but
yeah, I get that.
We're going off the rails. What does this actually prove? And you're saying, well, it proves that the effect has happened. Well, no. The effect that's being claimed is objects of mass change weight based on their physical location on a sphere. That's the claim.
Yeah, that is a claim.
Right. So in that claim, second time, there is a presupposition that we are on a sphere. The very thing that they are trying to prove.
Right. And my objective in doing this is trying to...
I hadn't finished. You're confirming that the assertion is a phenomena. We need to figure out this effect. Well, no, the claim effect is not a natural phenomena. It's a technological one. So to assert that the weight has actually changed is to assume that you have gone through every single detail of every single parameter and ticked them off and held them controlled, which has not been done. So there is no phenomena, natural or otherwise. There's an assertion of one, and then an assertion of the cause of it. So all this is a little bit of smoke and mirrors to claim a cause, which does not exist and has no scientific validity whatsoever. Beyond that, it has no use whatsoever.
Right. So the claim of the ballers is that, we live on a sphere that has gravity, and because of that, when we shift from one position to another position, we're going to see the effects of gravity. And my objective is to try and disprove that by actually performing the test that was said to prove this effect or this cause or whatever. And I mean, based on what you've said, it's not possible. So
it's not needed.
Yeah, that's what my...
The onus of proof is on the claimant. So you establish what is actually being claimed, and immediately we're into a presuppositional argument. Well, straight away, it's down to just the claim itself before you do a damn thing is a logical fallacy. So immediately it cuts the legs off it at that point. Beyond that, you can rip it to pieces based on its total lack of any scientific validity. And it's supposed to be a proof of gravity. Yeah, right. Okay. Well, you just rip the claim to pieces. You don't have to replicate anything. That's a burden of proof reversal fallacy that's obviously worked on you. Somehow you feel you are obliged to disprove this claim. Well, no. Whoever's making this crap claim has to prove their claim. And if they're claiming cause, it's scientific. So let's see your scientific validity to back your claimed cause of this claimed effect. Their burden of proof to prove this claim, not yours to disprove it. You can easily tear it to shreds. It's got absolutely no validity whatsoever and is based on a fallacy.
Right. So the burden of proof is on them. But I would, like before I understood the scientific method, like a few minutes ago, I was under the assumption that, all of this could be done without adherence to that. But obviously you kind of have to stick to that method. And the reason, I wanted to disprove this or prove it if it was correct is because this is proof that the Globers are using for gravity. So if we can disprove it, then they can't use that claim anymore. But it's obviously not scientific, so there's no way of verifying what, they've actually done.
Precisely. So it's a nonsense assertion of a non-phenomena and then a claim of a non-scientifically valid bending of space-time mathematical idea reified into existence through this logical fallacy backed up by someone carrying a man-made device across country and then asserting a phenomena at the end of it. I've said it beautifully at the start. This is a crock of shit.
I agree. So, all right. So, man-made devices can be faulty. How can we apply the scientific method without relying on man-made devices? Are we just going to be relying on our senses? How are we going to perform experiments in that way?
Definitely can use man-made devices when you're performing scientific experimentation. It's just the device itself that can't actually be used as the phenomena, but we may get into that in the after show. So if you're watching this on Nathan Oakley premiering stream, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. However, if you're watching this on Nathan Oakley 1980 live, then I'll say you a massive, huge, enormous thank you for tuning in, but unfortunately this is where we bid you farewell. If you need to keep yourself occupied after this live stream is over, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum to keep up to date with the community debate. As I say, stay tuned if you're watching the premiere stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Onto the ships and it still floats. Now the mass 2 is the mass of the Earth, because this is a gravitational force calculator, and the distance to the center of the Earth is 6,371 kilometers. You can see all of these data where I'm showing you. This is the 564,763 for the Sea-Wise Giant. Mass of Earth is 5.972 times 10 to the 24th in kilograms, and you got 6,371 kilometers. So I've got all those here. The gravitational force ends up being something like 5.5 billion newtons.
Yeah.
5.5 billion newtons, and yet the ship floats. Does that sound correct to you?
No. If I'm being honest, no, it doesn't.
Okay. So there are other factors that can explain this, and without using gravity, because it doesn't seem to make sense that something that applies 5.5 billion newtons of force wouldn't be crashing to the bottom of the sea in a very, very rushed way. But the way that they calculate gravity in this instance would be to use like a modified Archimedes principle calculation, where you have the upward thrust, which is basically nullifying the gravitational force of Earth. So it's just really interesting getting into things, and I'm glad you're asking all these questions. But
yeah, definitely.
Once you apply their things to just things that you just kind of wonder about, you'll notice that they need to patch it up. It's not cut and clear, and you always have more answers, and sometimes they don't even give you the answers. Sometimes
No.
that's why there are places like Quora and other places where, since the mainstream, they don't give you direct answers like NASA or the government or any scientific educational facility like a university. Every other person can go ahead and give an explanation and take that for whatever value the person who's reading into it has. And there you go.
Right.
But for me, I just look at.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, for me, I just look at the official narratives, the official givers of answers. That's usually government. That's usually NASA. That's usually some university, right? So
Yeah.
and I just look into their points and their answers that they give, and just see if it adds up. If it doesn't add up, then there's something wrong.
Yeah, and I like to do the same, and I also like to perform my own tests in order to determine whether something is real or not, rather than going by secondhand evidence. And like there's certain things that are kind of limiting if we're looking at the scientific method. Not to say that it's right or wrong. It just seems limiting when you're having to look at something where you can't vary the cause of the effect that you're looking at. For example, like with Earth turn, for example, you can't vary Earth turn. Not to say that it's real or not, but that's just something that can't be varied.
Right. So you can't prove it scientifically. You can only attempt to deduce it somehow.
So why should we just disregard something because we can't vary, what's actually causing it? Isn't there like a different methodology we can use to sort of determine why things are happening the way they are?
Yeah, sure.
Depends what you're describing. If it's a cause and effect relationship, and it's regards to our reality, the physical and natural world, then that falls exclusively in the realm of science. And in this instance, there's most definitely a cause and an effect relationship being asserted by these ballers in this regard. So you go, well, this is in science realm. So yeah, there's many methods of establishing all sorts of different things, and there's more than just cause and effect questions. But many of what the globe heads assert are actually cause and effect relationships. But in most instances, they've made up the phenomena and they've made up the cause. It's just total nonsense rather than just petty pseudoscience where they're, observing a phenomena and then making it up. At least the stars you could claim are a phenomena.
But if they don't make it up, they then claim that they've got evidence to prove it, but the evidence that they use to prove it doesn't manipulate the presumed cause, which is part of the problem with pseudoscience.
Well, I mean, they do say that they have evidence, but from what they've shown me so far, it's not their own evidence. It's like secondhand evidence.
Yeah, but if it doesn't comply with scientific method by definition, it's pseudoscience. And whatever they've got, like let's go with like Earth, like like sunrise, sunset. They always say explain sunrise and sunset on a flat plane. Well, what's the cause of sunrise and sunset? Earth turn. Okay, so where's the science that proves that Earth turns? There isn't any. Well, what's causing sunrise and sunset then? Well, we just assume it. Oh, but you don't prove it. No. So then there's no science to prove that the Earth turns, right? There's no science proof. No, but we believe it anyway. So
exactly. And in the same vein, with the flat Earth, there's certain assertions that are made that aren't following the scientific method, and I'm just wondering why they're not held to that same level of scrutiny.
Let's have
I'm
them.
not saying that.
Let's have them. Let's have them. We'll do it now. Let's have them. Let's have a few of them.
Some examples are, the sun and the moon are spinning around the flat plane, and a good example of the sun being able to move is us observing it changing in angular size. But I haven't seen that example presented to me yet. I haven't seen the sun changing in angular size.
Okay, we'll deal with the first one first. As far as we can tell, that's what the sun does. From its apparent, and I use the word intentionally, position in the sky, it appears to take a circular path above us. Now that is based on, unfortunately for us, global map projections that have been projected flat and may not give a accurate representation of the landmasses. However, I've done this myself with various other people across the plane, linking up their phones and tracking where the sun moves. It appears to travel in that way. However, you very correctly use the word apparent. So the apparent size does not change. Now, if you're a fan of the show, you've presumably on the ground heard us pointing out that the apparent size, aka angular size, is not being accounted for when they use the actual size mathematics for things that move into the distance, thus keeping the size consistent, even if it's very far away. Well, when you move over to celestial observations and the globers immediately transpose their ideas of measurements into apparent size, angular size, at that point you have a not actual size. So when a glober says the not actual size of the sun doesn't change in its not actual position throughout the day, this is a meaningless non-statement of nonsense, because it doesn't make any sense to assert that the fact that the non-position of the not actual size isn't changing is irrelevant. So in terms of, this is linked back to the housekeeping question, any evidence of the distance to the sun? No, we're talking about an intangible object. We don't know what it is. And while we can take a best guess based on what it appears to be doing, given lots of people tracking it throughout the day, yeah, it appears to go in a circle above our head. If you're far enough north, you can watch it do it, right? So, yeah, that's a reasonable assertion. But does that mean we know what it does, how far it is, or how it's doing it? No.
Exactly, and that was going to be my next question. What was causing it to move in that manner? But we don't know.
Unicorn
no idea.
Unicorn.
Right. So
unicorn
is it fair?
Hopes and dreams.
Is it fair to make the assertion that it's moving around in a circle based on observation, but we don't know what's causing it?
Yeah, you can literally go north, watch it travel in a full circle. I can't remember the guy's name. God, it's like 3 years ago now. One guy did it. So one of the participants just tracked it for 24 hours. He just went, there it is, still up. There it is, still up. There it is, still up. And he just tracked it through the day as it went around him in a circle. So to deny it is kind of nonsense. I mean, it's juxtaposed by the fact they assert the same thing happens in the quote-unquote southern hemisphere. So that doesn't occur. I interviewed a guy who'd spent 18 months in Antarctica and was more than willing to testify that he did not observe a 24-hour sun. But in the north you do. So to say it doesn't travel in a circle around us is kind of, well, that's a bit of a stupid thing to deny when you can actually film it yourself if you go far enough north.
Right. So is this... Go ahead.
Correct one thing there that Nathan said. There is evidence that the sun does change its angular size. If you check out Dave Murphy's channel, he's got solar filters on his camera and he's measuring how many pixels it is when it's at high noon and how many pixels it is at different states as it goes towards the horizon. And there is an angular size change in the sun. So let's just clarify. I don't know how much it is.
Doesn't it get bigger, actually, due to the lensing of the air?
I'll just concede that correction. The not actual size does change throughout the day.
Yeah.
Jolly good.
Right.
Very useful.
Yeah, right. I was going to ask that question before, because, I mean, I've seen videos where the sun literally shrinks. So wouldn't that be, I mean, obviously it's just the angular size, but that's not an angular size change if it shrinks?
Yes.
Well,
from one size to another?
But the way it shrunk was pretty rapid.
The only way you're going to determine that is if you're looking at...
Well, it would be going to light speed, basically, like a ship from Star Trek or something.
What's a light?
But it was going into a miraging type effect, I think.
Just for Chris.
It was filmed very high up. Remember that.
Okay, just keep the speculation just for 1 minute. So the way the globers get around this, when there's a very obvious angular, not actual size change in the sun, the way the globers get around that is to say that you haven't used the correct filter, that it doesn't actually change. And to be perfectly honest, I have done that with a filter, and as far as I can tell, they're correct. It doesn't appear to change. But I've not got any of those shots massively into the distance on a Hawaiian island or across a desert, which is the ones that actually get presented. They just get claimed to be fake.
Right, exactly. You do need some type of filter to determine whether it's shrinking or, you know, any changes are happening to the size, because without that filter, you're not going to be able to see the outline of the sun. You're just going to see like the glare. So it's really hard to tell.
Hold on. For those people who now think, I'll go out with a solar filter and I will catch the not actual size of the sun changing, well then great. What does that prove?
Right. Does this fall into the realm of pseudoscience or science, since we can't vary the cause of what's causing the Earth to turn? I mean, the sun to turn, rather.
It depends on the claim that's being made. So at the moment, we're just discussing what we see and is obvious with our eyes from our vantage point. Well, there's no cause and effect relationships being detailed, right? We're just literally just looking at something happening. We're not trying to establish the cause of the sun in this conversation.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I get you now. So it has to be an effect that you're observing rather than just something that's... Well, how would the sun be moving around in a circle not considered to be an effect of something?
Well, you could, at that point, you could say that's an observed phenomena. No problem. The phenomena of the sun moving in a circle phenomenon. Well, at that point, you can say, right, let's establish the cause of said effect.
There's no way of doing that because you can't vary the movement of the sun.
That's the problem.
How do you know? Have you tried? Have you got a hypothesis? Have you bought up a supposition of what you might be able to vary to cause that effect? It still sits within science. You can still come up with a supposition of what you think is the cause of the sun's movement, said phenomena. Whether or not you achieve it's a different matter, but it's still within the realms of science.
Well, I feel like finding the cause for that is impossible because you can't control like the movement of the sun. It's just not possible.
Sure, I'm sure
you can only observe it.
They probably said the same thing about diabetes.
Right. I feel that way for the same reason you can't control gravity, quote unquote. I'm not saying that it's real or not, but you can't vary it because you can't control it.
But with that weasel world, I'm not having a go at you, but when you say I don't know if it's real or not, well, you kind of stole my thunder because my next question was going to be, what's gravity?
I don't know. I just know that stuff that weighs, that has a weight to it, is going to fall to the ground. That's it. As far as what's causing that to happen, I don't think it's a magnetic force, but I just don't know what it is. I'm only seeing the effect of stuff falling to the ground because of how much it weighs.
But we do know the cause of that, and so do they. It's part of theirs and our narrative. They just insert one extra factor that they presuppose, based on the fact that they have a spherical Earth, that they have a religion which has this spherical Earth in a vacuum of space. Now, currently, that kind of doesn't make sense, because it's that bending of space-time, which is asserted to be gravity. However, that's part of their narrative in terms of how they describe relative density. You can look it up on any mainstream, format, and they'll give you the same explanation we'd give.
Right. But I mean, in our case where we're not presupposing anything, could we just determine that the cause is the weight?
Yeah, well, we would say the relative density, because you can't just assert that the weight of something causes it, because obviously it's relative. Oh, God,
someone's
back from you, Anthony. It's relative to the medium that it is in. So you can, I can't remember the exact liquid metal, it may have been mercury, but I'm pretty sure you can float an anvil on certain liquids.
Yeah.
Well, that's a pretty heavy thing to be floating and not going down. Well, it's only relative to the medium. So it's relative density as opposed to just weight.
Right. So the density is not the weight. It's the mass and the weight, right? The mass and the volume, rather.
Well, it's irrelevant to the fact that you're pointing out. Stuff goes down. Well, no, some stuff goes up and displaces other stuff. It's relative density. So it's specific to the medium the item is in.
Right. So, for example, the volume of water, if I have a swimming pool and I drop a bowling ball into the swimming pool, the bowling ball is going to fall to the bottom of the swimming pool because it has more density than the swimming pool.
Well, not necessarily. If it was filled with air, I don't know. I've never dropped a bowling ball. I know they're hollow and filled with air, though, so perhaps not. Maybe if you used a slightly different item, because I can't necessarily agree that would be the case.
Right, if we use a wrecker's ball, the kind that's attached to a crane that breaks
yeah, that would definitely
down,
sink. I'm with you. Cool.
And we drop that into a swimming pool. it's gonna fall to the bottom of the pool because it has more density than the water in the pool.
Chris, let me run through this and tell me what you think.
Right.
Nathan, share my screen.
Yeah, you got the Galilean thermometer.
Yeah, I can see your screen. Yeah. Are we live right now?
Thanks to
No,
Paul.
we will be in about 5 minutes. We're into the after show. I'm going to round this out as soon as this example's over, and then I'll start the next show.
Cool.
So Paul gave us this the other day, a Galileo thermometer. And basically what it is, it's a glass tube with a liquid, a water stroke alcohol mix. I think it's an ethanol mix. And it basically, with the ethanol, it reacts more with the temperatures around you so that it creates a change in volume of the water inside. But what it says in the operation of how this works, basically it's a thermometer. Different discs have got different temperatures associated with them. And what it says is the Galilean thermometer works on the principle of buoyancy. Bear in mind that buoyancy's got little g attached to it. Buoyancy determines whether objects sink or float in a liquid, and is responsible for the fact that even boats made of steel can float in water while a solid bar of steel sinks. This is the bit that's most important. Listen to what it doesn't say. The only factor that determines whether a large object rises or falls in a particular liquid, don't forget that the atmosphere is a liquid, it's considered to be a fluid, is the object's density relative to the density of the liquid. But it doesn't mention anything about gravity. The only thing that influences whether a large object rises or falls in a particular liquid is the object's density relative to the density of the liquid.
And with that, I'm going to say a massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of you joining us in the Nathan Oakley premiering stream. Also, a massive thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this debate possible. If you need to keep yourself occupied after this stream is over, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate Forum. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!